Hey, this is David for Big Bits, and today I just want to go over a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and some other major alts, as there's been some recent developments with changes in the price on a lot of the coins and tokens on the market in crypto, as well as talk about how there may be some other effects coming into the market, and then also talk a little bit about the news. And there's going to be an update on the giveaway at the end of the video. So if you watch the whole video, I'm going to try to add in another question on the contest for something that happened in this video. So if you watch the video, you'll probably be able to answer it quite easily and gain a fair amount of entries in the giveaway for $25, and the link is going to be posted in the description of the video below. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for your chance to get that. But for now, let's go over the technical analysis. Let me switch back to the daily chart on Bitcoin, and I want to go back to an idea I had the other day, and I mentioned that Bitcoin was looking south on many indicators. I haven't had a chance to make a video since I discussed this on another video here. However, I did lay out the case that the indicators on the daily chart were trying to reset and form a higher low and bounce off of the lower Bollinger Band. And I did update my idea here once that actually occurred. The price pretty much followed with the lines that I had perfectly. So were the other indicators for the most part before the price took off. So I've already explained in the past why I decided to change that idea at that particular time. And let me pull up the new idea here. And that's because on these longer time frame charts, we're starting to look really good for a potential increase in price and even a trend change going forward. Now, this is the 5-day chart. I don't really want to pull up. Well, we'll actually scroll down and take a look at some of the things that I said. The key takeaways: the 5-day chart is finding support on the 100 and the 200 daily here, or the 5-day, I should say. The stochastic RSI, and the RSI all have started trending up from these oversold levels. And not only that, they've been in this kind of lower region for a very long time. There was a brief spike up, and that was all entirely due to this one monster green candle here that didn't even break out of the range entirely, even though it did wick above it. So now that prices are beginning to leave that area on these indicators, that may be a sign that it's going to move towards the top, which would indicate that the price would have to move up as well. And of course, that's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy anything here, but that's what the indicators are looking like to me. That's why I share these ideas, and leave a comment if you agree or like as well. The MACD also appears to be potentially flipping over, and the MACD is something I'm going to talk about just a little bit more in the video here in a little bit. But for the most part, it looks really good. Back on the daily chart, we found the low here, and we have reclaimed the 50-day moving average, although we are now at the top of this kind of local range ever since we went below the 50-day. If we can get past here, I have a pretty good feeling it's going to go to the top of the much longer trend that we've had going back all the way through July of last year. And if we can get to that and the 100-day, I feel like it's probably going to slow down a bit. It's going to check up, hit some resistance, and then we might have a chance to finally leave that range. And that's on the daily chart. These indicators are all completely fine. And as you can see, it did turn on a dime here once it hit the bottom Bollinger Band on the daily. Let me show the Bollinger Bands here. You can see it did, and these have gotten really tight. The bands have. And a lot of times when the bands get tight like that, it means there's a large movement going to come. If you're familiar with Bollinger Bands, when they get super tight, it usually means that price has consolidated for a long period of time within a narrow range, as you can see it has, and that there's going to be a large move soon. And what you're hoping for, and which I've laid out in the ideas before, is that you're going to bounce off this price. You're going to reclaim the mid Bollinger Band. You're going to reclaim the 50-day, which we have. And now all you're really waiting for is to break out of these ranges and ride the Bollinger Bands up. And you'll see that back last year early on. You can see that here. Comes up to Bollinger Bands, rides them up, and continues to increase the price. So that's what you're kind of hoping for if you're looking for the price to increase. Now, that's just for Bitcoin. Let's zoom out to that 5-day chart I was talking about earlier. And this one looks absolutely amazing. I posted it's absolutely primed, and that's true just because everything looks like it's going to go the right way. And that doesn't mean it is, but the stochastic is moving up. The stochastic RSI is moving up. The smooth RSI has a trend change moving up. The MACD is looking very much like it's going to cross over, and it's even forecasted to, which is something that I've made. I haven't posted this indicator to where it's shared just yet, but I'm going to eventually. I have created this forecasted MACD similar to how we did in the other videos. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe because I'm going to post that video probably within the next week or two. So stay tuned for that one. But you can see it's looking like everything wants to go up. I am a bit worried that we could reject on this trend line, but I'm very hopeful we could get back up to this 50 period moving average, which also kind of coincides with I believe it was the 200-day on the daily. Yeah, so this is a 5-day. That would make sense. Well, close to it. Let's go back to the daily here. Yeah, so it's around 9,000 as well. So I'm hoping if we can get that breakout, we can go up to about 9,000. But that's all yet to be seen. There's just a whole lot of points that need to be overcame to be able to actually break out. If you're wanting a very long-term trend change, then we probably need to get back above the 50 on the 5-day. And the reason I'm using 5-day because it's just slightly quicker than the weekly. The weekly chart actually looks pretty similar, although it's going to need a better green candle to continue the upward momentum on the stochastic. Other than that, it looks pretty similar. The smooth RSI hasn't started moving up yet, and there isn't a forecasted crossover on the MACD. Other than that, it looks really good, continuing in this price range. Otherwise, if we do get trapped, it's very easy on these indicators to move a lot because they're already so low. So it could still yet visit this 200-week moving average yet again if we can't get out of this particular range to the upside and it rejects below this kind of local range right here. So I've went on enough about Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and take a look at Litecoin. And it's following the pretty much same indicator pattern as Bitcoin, which it has all of these starting to move up and the crossover forecasted on the MACD. So it looks really good versus the dollar. It also looks really good versus Bitcoin, which the Bitcoin chart and the dollar chart look almost identical when you look at all these indicators. But hopefully what that means is Bitcoin increases in price, which also means Litecoin will increase in price. But if you want it to gain versus Bitcoin, it means it's going to have to gain more than Bitcoin does versus the dollar. So if that's the case, it could spike up quite a bit in US dollars compared to Bitcoin. It could have a higher percentage gain from where it is now versus Bitcoin is what I'm saying versus the dollar. Now, let's take a look at Ethereum. It's similar, but it's actually had some pretty good uh, bounces on these indicators here, so it may or may not be ready. It actually has the MACD going green, smooth RSI is already going up. So if it can get a good bounce here, it might turn bullish, but it's got a lot of stuff in its way. And I forgot to look at the daily chart on these, by the way, so I apologize about that. The daily chart has been amazing recently. So we're going to have to see where that goes. Everything's up really high. This isn't where I would usually get in at, especially when you're trading below the 3 key moving averages. And this is versus Bitcoin too, by the way. Let's take a look at it versus the dollar. This is very similar. It does have a chance to ride those Bollinger Bands up. If it can break the 50-day, it might ride up to the 100, and it might meet resistance, and maybe it'll continue to ride up to the 200. That's to be seen, but just like with Bitcoin, we have got to break these moving averages or these other resistances that are out there in order to move up and to get a really truly bullish pattern to set up. We need to have price above all 3 and everything moving up. But if I were looking at this chart and I wanted to try and time the bottom, it would have been pretty hard. There's a lot of odd action in here. Honestly, the indicators weren't too helpful. They did go a little oversold here, but they weren't oversold for very long, but the price continued to drop. So these probably weren't the best indicators to use when looking at this particular chart. Although, just looking at the price pattern, you can kind of tell that it was kind of flattening out and changing direction there just a bit. So sometimes these indicators aren't always the best to look at. I also want to take a look at basic attention token. Now it's made some positive movement versus the dollar. Again, I think that has a lot to do with Bitcoin, although it did move before Bitcoin did. It also, versus Bitcoin, it gained, like I said, it gained before Bitcoin did. That's why it went up relative to Bitcoin. And then it's remained relatively neutral since then with a few big bounces in between. So nothing too great right here. Hopefully it can get back above those and find support above those moving averages. And actually I want to take a look at it on the weekly. If there's any other coins you want to look at, please leave a comment and let me know. We can take a look at those as well going forward in the future. But these are just the ones I typically go over. I really like basic attention token myself. That's why I cover it along with the 3 major other coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. So back on the weekly chart, it might be trying to find support on the mid Bollinger Band, but none of the other indicators really scream anything too spectacular to me. I think everyone who's in probably hopes that was the bottom and it's just kind of getting going. But it's hard to see on the weekly chart where it's going to go just yet, in my opinion. And this is on the USD chart. This one actually looks quite a bit better, like most altcoins do at the time, by the way. The Bollinger Bands, let's get rid of those so we can see this a little bit better. It does look like it might be getting ready to turn the corner and move up. So really, when you're looking at the chart, you see all the altcoins looking like they want to move up, and you see Bitcoin looking like it wants to move up. You have to think it's not a coincidence, and that the entire market could be getting ready to rise. Maybe not super significantly, but coordinated a decent amount, and you might have the opportunity to make some gains. Who knows? All right. So I think that's enough of the TA on crypto stuff. I did want to talk a bit about the traditional markets. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones. Now it's actually doing pretty well lately. It broke out of this long range that it was in over the entire last 2 years. But at the same time, the indicators have gotten really high on it. That doesn't mean it won't continue to go up some, but as you see, the longer it hangs out up here, the more likely it is for it to come down. It didn't come down much back here, but this is the weekly chart. The MACD is awfully high. It's going to have to really continue to run to keep that going up on the weekly chart. It's looking kind of toppy to me, honestly. You kind of got this narrowing range on the chart here. You also, let's take a look at the SP. All right, this one even looks even more toppy to me. I don't have the range put in there from the last couple of years, but you can see it's kind of the same idea. You don't see that too much, where the S&P gets maxed out and just kind of grinds up against the 100 there on the stochastic RSI too much. But it does typically mean there's something coming. It may not be a lot. It may be something like this, where the price doesn't go down a lot, but usually means something's coming, especially when your RSI is already that high. Let's see. I'm trying to find a good analogy here, but the RSI is really high, and I don't know. It just looks kind of toppy to me. Plus, you also have the threat of where was it? Yeah, Bitcoin price. This particular article I wanted to go over was looking at a breakout amid the U.S.-Iran tensions. Now, a lot of people are going to use this as an excuse or some sort of trigger that impacts the market. I think a lot of people are looking at this because, let's see, what was it I saw this on? I don't really remember. But a lot of people are noticing that there's a lot of these tensions going on with the war, the market. I just showed you the Dow Jones and the S&P are really high, and they both look like they're ready to maybe turn over and start heading down. But meanwhile, you have gold about to break out. There's some resistance back here. I don't know if you can see that too well on the chart. Let me bring that in here. There's some resistance here, and there was this kind of top, and you got kind of like a cup and handle maybe going on here. And if gold can break out of this, it can. I mean, it can't go towards its highs back here. But the point I'm really trying to get at is that maybe people are trying to get out of the market right now, and that's why these like gold and Bitcoin and the other cryptos are starting to look really good. Is that there are these tensions, but not only that, the market, Dow Jones, S&P, that stuff, it's been expanding ever since 2009, February 2009, March 2009. It's been nothing but up for the most part, a little bit of sideways in between, but really nothing but up. There were some similar times in the past, but really it's a pretty steep climb. So hopefully everything works out well and there is no war. I'd hate to see that. But I think a lot of people are looking to try and find an excuse right now for why the market is going to turn bad. It may or may not, but that's what the media kind of does. There's always some sort of excuse after the fact of what caused it, or leading up to it, they try to accredit something to it. Now, I'm not sure most people knew when the recession started back in 2008 that it was a housing market that caused it. I don't really believe that. I think a lot of people figure that out after the fact, and they probably thought it was George Bush's fault. He ruined the economy before he left, and 2020 just so happens to be an election year. So who knows what's going to happen with the market this year? There's just a lot of excuses that can be made right now, and it's just something I'm keeping an eye on. Even though for the most part things look pretty good over the last while, the indicators on the regular markets just look like they're really high and have been for a long time. And of course, watching gold and Bitcoin makes you think maybe there's a reason that money's leaving those markets, or maybe not leaving those markets, but entering gold and Bitcoin and such. Also, onto a little bit of the news. That's kind of important stuff. it's been a while since I've discussed the news. I like to do that. And if you're watching the video still, I really appreciate it. I've been going on for 20 minutes. I apologize for going on so long. Hopefully, it's somewhat valuable for you. The hash rate continues to reach all-time highs, approaching the halving. So people are putting more hashing power on the network, which probably means they're putting new equipment onto the network. And this is happening just months before the halving. And that's people investing into Bitcoin mining more money up front, who want to expect greater returns later, and they're doing it right before they know they're going to get less Bitcoin. So it's interesting that the hash rate continues to increase right before the halving so much, and people are so worried about Bitcoin potentially failing. Well, there's some people who are worried about that. Although the hash rate continues to increase and people put more resources, energy, and upfront cash with buying the equipment. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think it's going to continue to go up, of course, and who knows about the equipment coming out. I'm not really too worried about the exact numbers. The important takeaway is the hash is trending up right before the reward gets dropped in half. All right. Oh, I don't know why I got that one pulled up. Anyway, one of the big things that's been happening is over the last few years is the argument with the SEC and the securities, or whether or not tokens or certain cryptos are securities. And one of the biggest fights has been Telegram with their own network and their own tokens. And they are saying right now you should not expect any profits based on your purchase or holding of grams. And they've already sold them. The ICO happened a while ago. And what's interesting is they are doing everything they can to kind of fight the SEC, but they're also kind of trying to cater to them more now. As you can see, in the past, they're now saying, I forget what it was, they would potentially, stop working on the product or hope to push it more decentralized after it gets completed, which that may or may not have been the case originally. Plus, there were a bunch of comments recorded from some of the, I believe it was the executives at Telegram, saying that they think this coin, this token, could be worth a lot of money, and a lot of people are going to get rich. And so it's interesting to see what the SEC is going to do about that and where they are. There really hasn't been a lot of good rulings that really clarify anything. Most of the stuff that's come out ruling in favor of it has been, or in favor of crypto from the SEC, has been these like stable coins that aren't available to be traded on exchanges, and nobody cares about that for the most part. There's just really no one who cares about that. People want to know about projects like Libra. They want to know like Ripple. They want to know the ones that are traded on exchanges that they've bought into, and these sort of things. So it's going to be a while. Things like Telegram here. It's going to be a while before we figure these things out. But something that's interesting going to happen is they are going to be depositioned soon. I don't know if it was this article that I saw it in or not, but I believe I saw they were going to be deposed in Dubai. So there's probably going to be a lot more news coming out about what's going on with Telegram and everything going on there. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like if you did. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment. I always look at those. And please subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of videos like this. I mentioned the MACD forecasting earlier. There's going to be a video out for that. And then, we got tons of other videos on how to make indicators and do all sorts of stuff. So check those out on the channel. Also, don't forget to check out the description in the video. There is going to be a new question in the contest, the giveaway contest, for a question regarding something from this video. So if you watch this long, thank you. But yeah, that's about it. Check out that contest, and have a nice day.